What is going on, everybody? Your boy just got out of watching Saw X, and after Spiral came out, we didn't think that we were going to get another Saw movie for another 10 years, seeing how that movie didn't do so well at the box office, and a lot of people really weren't that big a fan of that film. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was a nice little refreshing take, even though it was predictable as all hell. And seeing how that movie came out during the pandemic didn't do well, the question about whether or not we were going to be getting another Saw X was in question. But now we have Saw X, this time taking place in between Saw and Saw 2. John travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover that the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. And when it comes down to the Saw films, I really enjoy a lot of them, some for the best, others for the worst, but I always have a lot of fun no matter what. I just really want to see how creative and clever the traps can get. And when it came down to Saw X, the trailers really had me hyped, and I enjoyed a lot of the promotional material that they gave us, especially with the AMC ad and the new TV spot last week when they released the little Jigsaw Crib spot. I have been really enjoying the marketing for this movie, and the fact that this movie has gotten such great reviews, that increased my hype a little bit more. And boy, was I really surprised by this movie. This movie did something that Don't Breathe 2 tried to do, and that was make us root for the bad guy. And as much as we all love John Kramer and his traps, I think this is the one where he got a little bit creative. I love that we finally got a John focused Saw film, because ever since Saw 4, he has just been included in flashbacks. And while I really enjoy his presence and I enjoy Tobin Bell as John Kramer, I really love that this movie was mostly focused on John and Amanda, and I really love seeing those two work together in this movie. Their relationship is a little bit strong, and you feel that in this movie. I think it carries on pretty well. I really enjoyed some of the traps here and there, and I really enjoyed that this movie was a bit more of a slow burn type of movie, because the first act we get to see John and his medical condition, his state of mind at where he is in this point in life, and then we go into the second act where we meet our key players and what's actually going on, seeing the con that they've came up with, and going into the traps that I really enjoyed a couple of them. They really had me a little bit squeamish. None of the traps that were in this movie will beat out the classroom scene from Saw 3. Even though I can't handle the needle pit scene in Saw 2, the classroom scene in the third film is something that is really near and dear to my heart, mostly because when it gets to the shot of the Achilles tendon, that is where I just look away. I can't do that kind of stuff. And when it comes down to Saw X, this movie is not focused more on the gore. Yeah, sometimes you're going to have to suspend your disbelief just a little bit, but I still enjoyed watching these people get their comeuppance, because you're really rooting for the bad guy, and that is where Tobin Bell plays this character to its full peak, because you really try to get behind this guy who is dying of cancer. He gets conned out of his money, and now he's looking for payback, and that is something that I will always get behind. Whenever it comes down to a character getting their righteous revenge, I'm always going to be on their side. I really love the fact that we didn't get to focus on the gore, mostly because I love that this movie takes place before Saw and Saw 2, where the first two didn't focus too much on the gore, and this movie does that fantastically. A couple of nitpicks that I have with this movie: the way that Shawnee Smith looks in this movie is something that I was not able to get out of my head, because every single time that we cut back to her, I know this movie takes place 20 years ago, and Shawnee Smith does not look how she looked 20 years ago, and it shows. And while they try to do the very best that they possibly can, it just did not work for me. That is something that almost took me out of the movie, just because I know they tried to do the same thing-ish kind of with Orphan First Kill, where they're trying to make Isabel Furman look like how she did in the first Orphan film. In this movie, they're trying to make Amanda look how she did in Saw 1 and 2, and that continuity for me was something that almost pulled me out of the movie. However, the performance that we get from Tobin Bell is what kept me engaged from beginning to end, and that is something that I really enjoyed about this movie. So if you're going into Saw X thinking that you've seen it all, you have. But it's still really enjoyable. If you're there just to see the traps, you're going to have a lot of fun. If you have not been vibing with the series for the past 9 films, then this movie is probably going to be the one that will turn that around just a little bit. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. But if you're not into this type of stuff, then this movie will probably not be for you. But overall, I'm going to go ahead and give Saw X a 6.5 out of 10. But those are my thoughts on Saw X. Did you enjoy this movie? Did you not? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know, what is your favorite Saw trap?